Hello everyone, this is RC053, and I'm bringing you a deck review. Now, this is not a deck that I made. This is a deck that, starter, beginner, a noob, whatever you want to refer to him as. He sent me this, it was Pancake. So, Pancake sent me this deck. He was just looking for some advice, looking for some help, and help I want to bring. So, anyways, this is going to be my look at his deck. We're going to break it down, we're going to change what needs to be changed. But with that being said, let's dive in. First, logistics section. We have a spammable or a cheaper command unit. This is the Humvee command. This is a great command unit. This is all the command unit I would bring in a general deck. Now, if you were going to be playing, say, 10v10 or in a larger game, I would probably change this out to be, say, a command M60 maybe, or say the M50, M577, something like that, something maybe a bit armored, or LAV, just depends on your taste. But either way, this is all I would go with. Now, it looks like he has one more command unit. I think we can cut this, because it really doesn't add much to the deck. It really only adds one top armor, and we really don't need that. It's just not a necessary aspect of a general deck in this case, because if I'm going to be playing a match, and we're going to be playing this, let's say we're going to be playing this in a smaller game, then this simply won't do, and otherwise we'd have 11 commands, and that's really, it's never really a situation you need that in. So, that frees us up some points anyways. So next we have the Hemet. We have the Fob, which totally agree with, we need to have this. Next we have a Hemet. Now, you have a couple of options. You could go with another Hemet if you really like the Hemet. Or what I would do, and I'd take some Super Chinooks. Now, the Super Chinook is, the reason I take this is because it adds flexibility to your deck, because you can send one of these out and resupply an area of the map that's very far away, and you don't have to wait for a truck, essentially. Now, albeit a very fast truck, but still a ground-based vehicle to arrive. Meanwhile, this will get there a lot faster, because it goes at 320 kph instead of just 150, so it goes over twice as fast. So yeah, I definitely take the Super Chinook. Infantry-wise, we have the Stinger C. Definitely agree with this. Personally, I would change the transport from the M113. If you really wanted it cheap, that's totally fine. But I personally like taking him in the Humvee. The Humvee's just slightly faster. You pay 5 points more, but at the same time, what do you gain? You gain a much faster transport that, yeah, you really, having that faster transport can be very important or very effective. Now, if you felt like you wanted more, it's a more AA, ground infantry AA for some reason, you could take the Stinger A, not the Red Eye. Don't take the Red Eye unless you're in like some conquest game or something where you want a cheaper option, or say a low point tactical game. But Stinger A anyways, it's cheaper. The way I use this the most though, I actually use this in like a helicopter or something. Say put it in a Huey here. You know, you send it in your air push, but you drop off a couple of these guys to help secure against the enemy's helicopters. You could use them, say, in a role like that. But I wouldn't recommend doing that in a general deck for most situations. Next, we have the Smaw. Smaw is excellent anti-tank, has good range, very high armor penetration, good HE, and very high accuracy with good rate of fire. Definitely keeping the sim, but changing the transport. The Humvee's great if you want mobility, but I prefer to use these guys in conjunction with this transport, the LVTP-7A1. The LVTP-7A1 is very effective because it has a variety of weapons. It has an M2 Browning machine gun, like most transports do for Blue 4. However, it has a Mark 19 grenade launcher, which is very effective at an anti-infantry role. So, taking the Smaw and the LVTP-7A1 and getting the Smaw, you can do a anti-tank roll with the Smaw while you use engage enemy infantry with the LVTP-7A1. You can do a lot of damage that way. I've used it extensively. You can just mow down enemy forces. Next, he has the just standard rifleman and the M2 Bradley. For those of you who like the Bradley, this is totally fine. I'm going to keep this. However, I'm going to switch from just standard Rifleman to Rifleman 90. It's only a 5-point increase, and you still get the tow missile, you still get the Bushmaster. Now, if we wanted a more dedicated anti-tank platform, definitely go with the M2A2 Bradley. M2A2 Bradley is a beast. This thing looks awesome, first off. Looks straight out of sci-fi, but it's very cool looking. And it also is very deadly. So it has 4 frontal armor, but importantly, it has the TOW-2 missile, which has 25 armor penetration. It has a very long ground range and a very high accuracy. So yeah, I'm going to just take these guys, well, and just a standard Bradley in just this case. Next he has Marines and the Frog. I don't like this combo. Marines, to me, are not the landing units. They just aren't. For me, Marines are assault troops, and I definitely wouldn't take these guys if you're going to use them for landings. I would take them in the LVTP7 if you wanted to take Marines at all, that is. I'm going to go ahead, let's see what the other options we have, and we'll just see what we end up adding. Usually I won't make Marines my first choice. However, I'll pick them, say, in the last tab if I want them. And then he has just some Rifleman 90s coming in at Humvees to secure towns, clean up. This can work. It's fine. But we already have them coming in the M2 Bradley. Now, what you could do is, of course, you could put them in the M113. Or in this case, you could take the Marines if this is where you wanted them, but you don't get a lot of them, so I'm going to take them. I'm actually going to leave this how it is. And the last thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to take the Marines. Instead, I'm going to take the Light Rifleman 90s. Now, these are really nice units. They're just very effective and... No, they're just very effective with their Super Dragon. Now, the Super Dragon doesn't have a lot of armor penetration, but you hit it, and usually it's enough to deter the enemy. Like, they see an ATGM flying out of the town, they're like, oh crap, gotta back up. And that's the best roll for the Super Dragon. So, yeah, this is how I'd go with it, and I'd use my Light Rifleman 90s as a early land grab unit in order to secure territory early on. Next, moving on to support, a lot of AA and some heavy artillery. First off, M48A3 Chaparral. Very effective, very nice. I love this thing. Great for escorting pushes of any kind. You can just keep this nice and tight in the rear and just snipe helicopters all day long. So yeah, this is definitely a keeper. Now, right here we have the PIP-3 and the IHawk. Or the IHawk PIP-3 and just the normal IHawk. We don't need both of these. I'm just going to delete both for now so we can compare them better just so we don't have to add them in later. But we have the IHawk PIP-3. The PIP-3 is very nice. It has a very good range, very good accuracy. However, I find it missing a lot. That's just my experience with it, is that it misses a lot. But when it hits, oh my gosh, does it do a ton of damage. I'm just going to stick with the standard IHawk because we get more of them. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of those. What he did have was the Pivads, if I can... Here's the Pivads. Pivads is great self-propelled AA gun. It has an extremely high rate of fire. Good HE power, good suppression. The biggest drawback of this is that it doesn't have a stabilizer, so it can't escort your pushes. However, I would say we do need an AA gun for a general deck like this, so let's go ahead and we will take the Pivads. Or we can take the Vulcan. Vulcan's more spammable. I like the Vulcan better, actually. The reason I like the Vulcan better is because it's harder to counter. And because it just doesn't have the radar guidance. Now, keep in mind, it is only 25% accurate, but when you're firing this many rounds a minute, that's going to be a lot of hits. We're looking at about 200 of these rounds a minute hitting the target, actually. So that's still a lot of rounds hitting the enemy's aircraft. So, yeah. And, okay, so right now we have long-range AA, IHawk, Vulcan. What we don't have is anti-aircraft that could escort a push. Now, for that, the Avenger is ideal. So I definitely want to take the Avenger. Very accurate, very good range against helicopters. And while its range against airplanes isn't great, you can still do a lot of damage because, well, a lot of people you can hide these and they'll forget about them, and they'll be like, oh, it doesn't have a good range against aircraft, so not really important, and they'll fly over it, not expecting it to go down. They fire extremely quickly because they're fire and forget. So yeah, just don't underestimate these guys. Oh, man, this is tough now, because now we've got the Chaparral, we've got the Avenger. This is tough. I like the Avenger, the Chaparral, and I like the Avenger, but it's they kind of are redundant in this case. This is tough. This is really hard. I always the support section is especially hard for me, especially in decks that are as diverse as the US. So sorry, Chaparral. No, I'm not sorry. I'm not gonna take Avenger. I'm gonna go ahead and keep the Vulcan in here instead. Sorry, Avenger. So sorry, but anyways. Yeah, that's one thing. I wouldn't recommend taking the lesser Chaparrals. I really wouldn't. The A1 Chaparral is okay. But it only has 40% accuracy. So unless you say put these in groups of 2, they're not going to be the most effective. Just keep that in mind. Next, what he did have was one of these, I think it was the M110A2. Some people like these really heavy artillery pieces. I, for one, don't. What I would rather have is, I'd rather have, say, a Paladin, which carries more rounds and fires them faster, so they can engage the target faster. They have very tight dispersion. They won't kill it on the first hit, but just better, more versatile units. You can go with, say, some long range. You can do something like that. For me, though, I'm just going to go with some mortars. And these mortars are just very versatile in any role that you need them in. You can have them shell a position. You can have them just stun a position. You can have them smoke a position. They are just very effective all around. Now, I'm going to save this spot, and we're going to come back to it later. Tanks. Ooh, my. Ooh. Okay. I'm going to have to do some work here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by clearing this all out. Okay. Now, it looked like he had some starships, some Sheridans, Era, and the M1A1A HA Abrams. The cheapest unit I would bring in this case is the M8 AGS. This is a hidden gem in United States decks that I think some people really don't notice, but they're just so good. They're just such good units. Because, first off, they have maximum range against enemy tanks. Next, they have very high accuracy. They can shoot exceptionally well on the move. Very high armor penetration, and they fire 13 rounds a minute. On a 55-point unit. Not to mention, they're small, medium optics, and very quick units. The M8 AGS is a must-have, I believe, in any US deck that you can take it in, that is. But it's exceptional. Next, we need something for this to hide behind, because it doesn't... The biggest downside of the M8 AGS is it doesn't have much frontal armor. It's very good, just doesn't have that armor. So, you need something with that armor. And for that, well, the M1IP Abrams is very effective at filling that role. You can stay about 100 meters in front of it, take the blows for the M8 AGS while it deals them out. Meanwhile, you can have your IP Abrams engaging, the enemy target, taking some blows that it can, and then retreating them when they need repaired. But, very effective unit. Next, I would take the M1A1 Abrams. Let's compare the HA to the M1A. The HA to the base M1A1. First off, their weaponry is entirely the same. Entirely the same. No difference here. The only difference that you have is that this has more armor in basically every way. It has more frontal armor, it has more side armor, and it has more top armor. Other than that, these stats are basically identical. However, with the A1, we get 7 at trained. This we get 4 at trained. We don't need that many tanks. Next, definitely going to stick with the M1 Abrams line, and we're going to take the M1A2. M1A2 is awesome. It has the best main gun in the game. It'll penetrate the armor of any super heavy main battle tank. It is extremely effective, extremely lethal, and it should be treated with the highest amount of respect on the battlefield. just keep that in mind. Its autonomy isn't the best, but very fast, exceptional gun. The gun is, I'd say this is the best gun in Wargame. And then the M2 Browning and M240 are very effective at suppressing enemy units. And this is all I would do for tanks. I don't like the starships. They're terrible, in my opinion. The only role that these are good for is dealing with stuff like Spetsnaz. Only thing it's good for. MBT-70, I'd say, is the best infantry support tank that the United States has. And that's, like, tank in the tank section. There are a lot of awesome infantry support units that are in the game, and so I'd just stick with this for right now. I don't think you really need this in the deck, but it might be a nice to have. Recon? Rangers. I like the Rangers. Rangers are exceptionally good at doing the recon. You can use them basically in any role you want. But I wouldn't take them in just the Huey. I would take them in either the Blackhawk or the Chinook. I'm going to take them in the Blackhawk because, well, it doesn't have as good of autonomy as the Chinook does. However, it does have miniguns. And miniguns are kind of hard to argue with. So yeah, I'm going to take the Rangers there. Wow, he really likes his Sheridans. Once again, I don't like these specific recon tanks. There are better units in the recon section for this. For that, definitely the M3 Bradley. I would usually go with the M3A2 Bradley. But if you wanted something of comparable price to the M551A1, or the Sheridan recon tank with very good optics, then I would just take the normal M3 Bradley and use it as a basic spotter. However, what I'm going to take is the M3A2 Bradley, which has the TOW 2 missile and the Bushmaster. It's very good armor on it for this unit. Carries 12 missiles, which is just, I gotta say, that's insane. And that makes it just so extremely effective against tanks that really makes me question whether or not we need like an ATGM in the vehicle section, because we have the ATGMs on the light riflemen have. We have the ATGMs that the M2 Bradley has. So yeah, that's a lot of AT capability right there. Recon, back to recon though. Longbow, oh, gotta keep this in here. This is just such an exceptional reconnaissance helicopter, and it also gives us a lot of AT capacity. If we wanted something cheaper per se, something that's maybe cheaper, but also very effective, you could go with the Kiowa Warrior, or just the base Kiowa if you just wanted the recon. I'm going to keep the longbow in here. This longbow is awesome. Last unit. I definitely want one more unit of recon in here. One option would, say, be the Cavalry Scouts. We could take them in, say, the Black Hawk as well. Actually, what we could do is we could take the Rangers. We could take them the Chinook. And by doing that, they give a lot of autonomy, so we could use these guys behind enemy lines, and you could take, then, the Cavalry Scouts, say, in the Black Hawk, which makes them very fast, and you could use them in something like that. However, do keep in mind, turn off the ATGM. This will give away their position every time. It will just be so annoying. So, I mean, maybe I'm going to take these out. That's one idea, though. That is one idea. Could take the M125 Humvee Mark 19. That's what I'm going to put in this deck, because it gives us another grenade launcher. And when it comes to supporting your... think of this less as a recon unit, and think of it more as a fire support unit. Just having a Humvee with a grenade launcher on it, this just becomes very effective, and it can really do a lot of damage to enemy infantry. Oh my gosh, a lot of vehicles in here. LAV-AT, we don't need this. We already have everything kind of we need there, so we don't need it. Zippo, gonna keep this in. Napalm tanks are very effective and very nice to have, so I'm definitely gonna keep these. LAV-25s, they're nice, they're nice. I'm gonna go ahead and keep them in. M90A1, Ooh, we don't need another LAV-25. Whoops. What was this? I don't think we need this. If I was going to take TOW-2s, I'd probably want to take them on the Humvee because they're just faster that way. But what we really need is some solid anti-infantry capability. For that, oh, you want the CEV. The CEV will just mess up enemy infantry. They're awesome. This main gun is infantry nightmare. If you are playing Red 4 and you see this, engage this with basically everything but infantry. Tanks will kind of work, it'll stun them though. Probably the best way to engage it is with a helicopter of some variety. So yeah, this is what I'd go with. LAV-25 is great. If you didn't want, what we could do is we could take these in the recon tab, and that gives you a very fast and effective scout. You could see down here the LAV-25 scout. That would allow us to take the Combat. Now the Combat is kind of like an M2 Bradley with a different turret and stuff, and it has the Combat autocannon. Very awesome. 5 armor penetration. Ooh, 5 armor penetration. I cannot argue with that. I can't argue with that, ladies and gentlemen. That just is what makes the Combat so effective. So yeah, I mean, you can go through the sides of cheap tanks with that much. You can engage probably a T-34 at max range. And one of these will probably kill 2 T-34s. Might have to test that out sometime, but yeah, can't argue with it. Helicopters. DAP, keeping this. Great for escorting your pushes. Super Cobra. And an Apache. Okay. This is where I'm going to get serious. You either take the Apache in the helicopter tab or on the recon tab. I'm going to take it in the recon tab because the longbow is awesome, and it's just that much better. We really don't need both of these, though, so I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this Apache here. And we really don't need the Super Cobra either. We already have that high-end AT, and so if you wanted it for the air-to-air missiles, I get that, and I respect that, but you just don't need it. We have the DAPs. The DAPs will do it. I have to take the DAPs or the Super Cobras. Choice is yours. It's a tough choice. I'm going to keep the DAPs in, though, because it gives us an all-round attack platform. What we could use, though, is something kind of intermediate. Something that we can use to engage enemies at a distance without breaking the bank. And for that, I'm going to go with the Sea Cobra IP. And this is mostly just to kill, like, well, maybe not the IP. Bit expensive, comparatively. I guess I'm going to go with the, just the AH-1E. Which only gives us 4 missiles, but they're cheap, and just think of these as just using them to engage, just use them to engage cheaper targets. Stuff I wouldn't want to send my, say, use a Hellfire on. Using a Hellfire would just be excessive, but you want it dead. That's where the AH-1E comes in. And just keep it at max range, and it'll do fine. And make sure it's firing stable, like when it's not on the move, because it doesn't shoot accurately on the move. Must be more tired than I thought. And then I think we also need another anti-infantry, and what better than a Little Bird. If you play Battlefield 4, you're probably familiar with them, but this is not your Battlefield 4 Little Bird. This one carries twin grenade launchers, and my gosh, would that be a nightmare. And it is a nightmare in this game. Yeah, use these as fire support for infantry in towns, use to suppress enemy units in the open. It is awesome. Oh, wow, not a lot of aircraft is there, so this is something where we definitely want to change it. First off, we need an air superiority fighter. Now, as far as I'm concerned, there are 2 options for a general deck. The F-15A Eagle or the F-16 Block 52. They have their advantages and their disadvantages. The F-15A carries more weapons, and it's cheaper, but it has less air detection, lower ECM, and a wider turn radius. And it's long-range air-to-air missiles. They engage at the same range, but the Sparrow is semi-active, so it has to stay in the area in order for it to really be effective. The AMRAAM, on the other hand, compared to the Sparrow, you can launch as many of these as you want until you run out. But it's not as effective in dogfighting, so it's a trade-off. I think I'm going to go for the F-15A Eagle. Just keep it at range, and it will do a lot of suppression damage. And just capitalize on that once you hit the enemy unit. Just swoop in for that kill. I don't like the Nighthawk, though. When it comes to the Nighthawk, this has a very niche role, and that is precision strikes. Something that we really don't need. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this, and we'll look for something else to fill that role later. A-10. Exceptional anti-tank unit, but it's very specialized. The best way to use this unit, the best way, honestly, is just to send this into a column of enemy units. It's best against columns of enemy units, against a lot of enemy units, not against one specific unit. So I'm going to get rid of the Thunderbolt. Pains me to do so, but I'm going to go ahead. And you have two options here once again. I think you have a couple options. Depends on what you want. If you want something cheaper, you can take this one, or if you want a more expensive version, you can take the FA-18. The lesser version, the lesser variant of the Hornet without the upgraded missiles. That's really the only difference. Is that this Hornet has better missiles and a better Maverick, and it has more ECM, better air detection, but not really things that we need. I usually go with the FA-18C Hornet, but in this case I'm going to go with the F-18A Hornet. Actually, no, I'm not. Because I can only take them at rookie. Ugh. And I want to make sure I get the kill. And carrying 4 Mavericks, it's going to make sure I get the kill. Next, we need some way to go after infantry. That could be in the form of a Harrier with some rocket pods, or a Skyhawk in the same way. Go with a napalm bomber like the Phantom. This has been probably in more Vietnam War movies than any actor. Anyways, bit off topic, but still. I wouldn't recommend... Well, I like these units, but we really don't need them. As much as we need a direct, something that will absolutely kill them outright. You could go for the F-15D, and that's usually what I would take. But I think, in this case... hard choice. Actually, I am going to go with the F-15D. Because it carries 4 1,000 kilogram bombs, and oh man, that just is exceptionally lethal. Don't use this in any other role, though. Just don't worry about the missiles it carries. They're good, but don't use them in that role. You'd be really wasting this unit if you went after helicopters with it. There are much better units to go after helicopters than this. This is just way too expensive for it. Yeah, so last thing we need, Seed. I like the Prowler. The Prowler has great ground range, good accuracy on it as well. So I'm going to take 2 of them at rookie, and that's going to be that part of the deck. Ooh. We do not have a lot of area left. We could add another vehicle. We could do that. One thing the U.S. does like... I think I'm going to get rid of these riflemen here, the spammable riflemen. Because what I want to do is I actually want to bring in some dedicated anti-infantry units. While you could say that we have enough anti-infantry with, say, the CEV, the Little Bird, and the Humvee Mark 19, having some just infantry that can get in close to the target is important. So for that, I'm going to take 9 Deltas. Do not go toe-to-toe with Spetsnaz or Legion 90s, and you should be fine. They are very lethal and exceptionally skilled units at dealing with enemy infantry. But yeah, they're just very good at doing that, and just keep them in that role. Just keep them in that role, and you should be totally fine. Yep, vehicles. A lot of options. You have options like, say, the V150 90 mil, The V150-90 mil is good for escorting a motorized push. We do have 2 motorized units, so you could definitely make a case for it. It has a kinetic gun. I like it. I think it's very effective when you employed properly as a flanking unit. However, I'm just not going to go with it. In this case, I just don't think we necessarily need it, so I'm not going to take it. Instead, I'm going to take the Humvee TOW 2. Take 9 of them, because this will mess up enemy tanks. And having standoff anti-tank capability is something I sometimes wish I had, and I don't always have. So while we do have a lot of anti-tank capacity, this is kind of what I think we'd go with. So, Pancake, if you're out there watching this, I hope this helps you. Oh, wait, we didn't even go to the naval section. Naval section, okay. Wouldn't take a Congo. I'm going to take it instead the Lafayette. You get more of them, they're cheaper, and you fill a better variety of roles. Baikonur is great for supporting naval or amphibious pushes or escorting a push that's near the coast. I'm just going to take 8 of them at Hardens, though. Because there's 12 of these is just ridiculous. It's just way too many. Way too many. I don't like the Puma plans, and I don't like the Super Pumas, or the Panthers. I don't like them a lot at all. Oh, Fremantle? If you want something that can occupy a naval zone, then the Fremantle will do it. But I don't really like them. Really, I just don't like them. I mean, I'm going to keep it in here because he probably has a purpose for it. And I'm not a Navy expert, like not an expert on the Navy, but like an expert on naval battles. I can kind of do it if I have to, but it's definitely not my premier thing that I'm good at. Pohangs has an okay range, but how much is this? 125. You know, I think there's a command ship for the Type 21. You got the Vickers Mark 8. I'm gonna take 2 of these and use them as coastal support. You could probably do that. And then always nice to have a ship supply. So I'm gonna take an LCU. I could have made a terrible naval section. I wouldn't have noticed. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video of Pancake. I hope this helped you out. I hope this helps you make a more balanced deck. This is what I would take into battle. This is what suits my playstyle. Just because it suits mine doesn't mean that it can't, that you can't make changes to it to, you know, play for your own playstyle. Everyone's gonna have their own likes and dislikes. You may hate the Delta Force. You may not like the CEVs, but they're things that I like to use. They're things that I find effective, so I'm gonna keep them in. Anyways, these are the changes. I know I really tore up the deck, I feel like, but I hope this helps you and makes a more balanced deck. Anyways, this is RC0538 for Couch Commander Gaming signing off. Have a good one.